Meh. Good morning. This thing was supposed to be a horrible fucking off-the-rails rant about basically nothing. And I was thinking, no, I don't want to make any bullshit like that anymore. I don't want to go off the rails and fucking fly off the handle and produce more fucking anger and bitterness into a world that already has, like, way too much of that to begin with. I got someone I personally admire, but the truth is, like, you gotta hear, like, someone's gotta fucking, I don't know, someone's gotta tell you this shit, and they gotta tell you in a way that isn't, like, so bitchy or pontificating or, like, soapbox-ish that you can't even fucking, the message doesn't communicate, you just immediately go for the fucking sue button. You just immediately call up your 10 high-priced lawyers. But no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just fucking, like, I'm upset. I am a little upset at you. Now, obviously, you are fucking extraordinarily more successful than I'll ever be, but then again, fucking Walt Disney was extraordinarily more successful than either of us could ever be, so, you know, big fish, small pond, shit like that. I don't know. And lately, you've been completely fucking falling down into the human equivalent of, like, dereliction. Kind of like Eddie Murphy these days. Now, you haven't gotten evil or anything like that, but you just, you know, you haven't gotten the dishonorable discharge that you really should have. You just kind of lingered for a while and kind of slink back into your hidey hole and occasionally take a pot shot out here or there and scurry back into the hole. I don't know. It just seems like really weird and counterproductive behavior right now, especially. And it reminds me a lot of this guy in particular named Brett Keane. Do you know who Brett Keane is?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brett Keane.
Brett Keane, you're not as slick as you think. Caught in a lie, fuck knows how many times. Brett Keane, you're not as slick as you think, except for the sleaze that secretes from your teeth. Trusted just as much as sin. A wolf in sheep's clothing just won't begin to justify the scorn you've drawn. No one will shed a tear when we know you're gone.
Here is the story of Brett Keane in short. Brett used to be a YouTube atheist superstar back in the early days of YouTube, like 2007, 2008. And a lot of his shit, I mean, I was too little to actually be watching that shit at the time, but I'm a Brett Keane historian myself, and I can tell you that a lot of it back then was atheist comedy and arguing with preachers and analyzing fucking arguments for God, you know what I mean? Like, oh, there cannot be an unmoved mover, you know what I mean? That kind of fucking Thomas Aquinas horse shit. He also made metal music with his brother. It's awful. In 2008, it was blown open that he had been plagiarizing everything. Every video that he made was stolen verbatim off of forums and other atheist writers and shit. He also had multiple domestic violence charges on his record. And he got exposed for vote botting and comment section botting and mass flagging people he did not like and so on and so on. And shockingly, around the same time, he becomes a born-again Christian. Why does he become a born-again Christian? Well, let me tell you why he becomes a born-again Christian. Because he asked for money on the internet to ostensibly pay his rent. And the atheists didn't give him any money. And so he was in a park bench in the woods, you know, as one does. And he prayed to God. And just like that, all the Christians gave him a little bit of money. And then he spent that on his Amazon wish list. But he told everybody that he was spending it on rent. And so on that basis, he's now a Christian situation. And since then, his career has pretty much just taken a nosedive, and he became pretty much the first lol cow. As much as I hate that particular genre of media these days, if anybody actually deserves such a thing, it's Brett. Anyway, since then, Brett has gotten his ass reamed out in several debates. He made a posse of fucking other Christians who all ended up hating him, and he used to fight all of his battles for him and harass podcasts. He's sued 1 million people. He is the worst liar on planet Earth. What else is in my list of litigations? He scammed people every fucking way to Thursday to pay more Amazon wish lists. He also gave a psychopath the addresses of his enemies. Whew. Yeah, he's that sort of guy. And by all accounts, he never stopped beating. Brett is also an author, by the way. Here's a sampling of his work.
I'm so sorry. All of the sudden, black smoke began seeping out of the driver's side window, the one nearest to them, then little smoke rings. The dude's got blood coming out of the car, and he's just sitting there, staring at us all, smoking a goddamn cigarette. A metalhead named Jeff Evans whispered to his friend. Finally, a hand covered in a black leather glove slowly appeared out of the driver's side window, wielding a black cigarette. The cigarette was almost burnt down to the butt. There was now only silence being traded between the onlookers and the mysterious driver. The hand began to turn slowly, then an eerie voice scoffed. My friends, just as the cigarette burns out slowly within my hand, as will all of your lives. And with that, the cigarette was flicked. Within seconds, it landed directly on the breasts of a female that was wearing a shirt which exposed her breasts, who was standing on the sidewalk. She patted her soft skin violently to stop the burning, but only caused the small flaming flecks of tobacco to scatter about in her shirt. Finally, the cigarette fell out of her shirt, being more of a surprise than painful. By the time she looked up to curse the driver, the window went up and a new heavy metal song called No More Tears by Ozzy Osbourne began to play. The car then burned rubber and ripped its way into the parking lot, coming to a skid and abrupt stop, almost hitting the black teenager's car and them, for that matter. They were all huddled up listening to their rap music. Cause of this, they began cursing and yelling at the driver, knocking at his passenger side window. The jocks, which were angry and curious, headed towards the parking lot to confront the driver. The bell rang, but no one entered the school. They knew something interesting was in store for them to see. Moments later, the passenger window came slowly down. 3 black guys and a black girl stood peering into the car, but could see nothing but darkness and void as the jocks had seen before. The black girl, who was slightly overweight, began pounding on the car, trying to provoke the driver to come out of the car, but to no prevail. It was then that the black girl impatiently and arrogantly shoved half her body into the car to assault the unseen driver. Her behind was hanging out of the window, with her short skirt revealing her panties and a full view of her butt. The black guys just stared, chuckling at her attempts, but mostly staring at her butt. At that moment, a huge puff of smoke came flowing out of the car window, and the black guys saw it and became worried. She got a brief smell of the cigarette odor. It was then that 2 red eyes stared directly into hers. She gasped as a huge mouth smiled, riddled with razor-sharp teeth. Shocked and in terror, there was nothing she could do. She then felt a strong hand grasp her throat and force her to stare downward, where she witnessed a horrifying sight. It was worse than a nightmare.
Yeah, that's one of the better parts of the book. And the reason I bring it up right now is because I don't fucking want you to turn into Brett Keane, because I can see that same Brett Keane fucking cycle, like, unwinding its thread through your fucking life. I can see you, insulating yourself. I can see the big, fall down of your public image. I can see the posse surrounding you. I can see the way that posse fucking breaks up. I can see, the weird, like, oh, I need money for XYZ and then go and spend it on something else. I can see the Keane cycle in you, in your fucking everything you do these days. And it makes me miserable, because, like, Brett Keane is, like, no matter who you are, homeless in the desert, surviving on rats and pee, at least I'm not Brett Keane. Like, he's that sort of fucking guy. Holy shit. And you don't want to fucking end up like Brett Keane. And even if you don't end up like Brett Keane, the way things are going, you're going to end up like Orson Welles. You're going to end up like Orson Welles, where people only give a fuck about early in his life, still give a shit Orson Welles. And then they look at later in his life, don't give a shit Orson Welles, and they're just going to fucking laugh at you. And to some extent, they already do. And man, that is like my biggest fucking fear. That is one of my biggest fears, dude. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, it's ultimately not my concern, is it? But it's like having a cousin, a distant cousin who you only see a couple of times a year, and maybe you don't think about too often. But, every time you see him, you see him slowly get more and more and more of an alcoholic, or more and more and more addicted to fucking meth or something. It's like, it's like, I know I can't really stop it, but what am I supposed to do? It's just a cat on a tin roof, dogs in a pile, nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile. Have a great day.
TJ, do you see a dark mirror in Brett? Dude, the first conversation that me and Paul ever had in person with one another under the lemon tree,
yep,
we talked about this fucking fact that we both see a dark mirror in Brett.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because we both have the same, like, we share a certain drive that Brett has. And I think every content creator could say the same thing. But he wants his voice to mean something. He wants people to listen to it, critique it, be affected by it, negatively, positively, whatever. He wants widespread, like he wants to have a large audience of people. And so do we, right? We have that same drive. And the dark mirror is we could see ourselves sitting where Brett's sitting. Like, being so fucking dedicated to this idea that eventually one day I'm going to make money doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I could see a horrible past that I've fucking escaped, thankfully, where this is me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just busted up, fucking goofy looking, dude, sitting on a shit-stained mattress and making content that sucks. Yeah. Me. You know what I mean? So you gotta, like, that is part of understanding Brett Keane, is to see some aspect of yourself in there.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think you can, what I can see in Brett myself is that if you follow every foolish, selfish, dark impulse in life, if you're never honest, you can never be honest with yourself or others. Because a big problem with Brett's deception is it's not only deception on other people, it's deception on himself most of all. So I think Brett's a cautionary tale for sure, and I think we can all see that in Brett, and that's why, of course, that's always that, you know, at least you're not Brett Keane. It's because you can probably discern that Brett has only made selfish choices, and this is where it's led him, a path of ruin and self-indulgence.